Welcome to The Dirt, the podcast we dig deep into the grit, growth, and grind behind the miles.
We're your co-hosts, and I'm Coach Lindsay.
And I'm Coach Loretta. We're ultra coaches, ultra runners, and firm believers that lessons we learn on the run can change how we show up in life.
Today, we're going to be talking about failing fast, how ultra running forces us to problem solve, adapt on the fly, and get stronger through every single setback.
So whether you're chasing your first finish line or just looking to stay grounded when things get tough, this episode is for you. Let's get into the dirt. So today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about failing fast. And that's a concept I think that we all should be somewhat familiar with, right? When we're doing ultra races. So when you think about failing fast, what kind of goes through your mind, Lindsay?
For me, I think because whenever you talk about fast, my mind automatically goes to like, if I'm going for a time, there's not a lot of wiggle room to really make decisions. And, I think we've all been there where we make, the wrong decision in a time, whether it's changing your shoes when maybe that wasn't the right call, or, picking something that you've never tried at an aid station, something like that. But for me, I think the less wiggle room you have, the less you have to really think about your options. But as long as you get to a decision, I feel like that's always better than just stewing on it and waiting around to figure out what your options are.
Sure. So, I think that in races, we need to figure out, recognize what's not working,
Mm-hmm.
figure out fast, what are we going to do about it? And
Right.
maybe the thing that we do isn't the answer. So then we're just have to move past that, right? And
Right.
our feet and move to the next, okay, what's my next thing I can do to try to fix my issue? So I think that's a concept that people should become familiar with, right? And
Right.
figure out what they can do. But so let's talk a little bit. I was thinking about, we did a race together,
Mm-hmm.
Bronze Bend in Texas.
Yeah,
And I think that we learned some things pretty quickly, and we had to make some quick decisions
we
based on
did.
what happened to the weather, right? So
Mm-hmm.
before we are in Texas, it's 50 degrees, not much humidity. We wake up the next morning at 6 a.m. and it's like 100% humidity. And I
Yeah,
think
100 degrees.
probably 80s. I don't know. It was hot. It was
Hot.
really very, very humid. So humid that we had alligators crawling out of the swamp all over.
All over, everywhere. And I think I even remember, remind me, how big were the loops? Like 16-mile loops? Does that sound right?
Maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah. Oh, maybe 19, somewhere within that range, a little under 20-mile loops. And I remember finishing that first loop and I just was like gassed. I was like, and immediately I said out loud because my dad was there, I was like, game plan shift. I'm not going for time. Like, I've got to survive these next couple. Like, my stomach was turning,
Yes.
like everything. So immediately I backed off on pace. I tried to remedy the stomach situation. And I think starting that loop, I was just puking for like 10 miles, like did the puke and rally. But immediately you have to adjust. So whether it's, I probably had some blisters early. I think there's a picture of me like messing with my feet. So you have to like really pivot fast. Like, okay, that wasn't working. How do we figure this out? And the quicker you can adapt, and maybe it's not the perfect scenario, which that's okay, the better your outcome's going to be. I mean, we're never going to make the right decision 100% of the time on an ultra. It's just not feasible. There's too many variables. So you just got to figure it out quick and move on to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we kind of started the day out together. We were going to kind of do it together.
Mm-hmm.
Things just started, it was hot, it was humid. Your
Ugh.
stomach sort of fell apart with your stomach for a little bit. So you told me to just go on ahead, right?
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
to go, okay, that's what we're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll see you later. And,
Yeah.
we did see each other a bit later, but our strategy of running turned into a little bit more walk run because it was just insanely hot and humid. And for me, I was struggling with an electrolyte balance to try to figure that out because I'm a super heavy sweater. And,
Yeah.
I know one of my fast, quick things was I was at an aid station and they offered me, I can't remember something. Whatever they offered me seemed to work, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can do this. This is,
Right.
I mean, because I was at a point that I felt like I was done because I couldn't even move.
Right. Yeah. Just probably all electrolytes were gone at that point. I mean, when I think we'll share a photo, and I think it's the foggy picture, isn't it? That's not fog. It's like just humidity. Like you can
Yes.
barely see us running in the distance, and it's just like what you think of when you think of like the mist from Stephen King or something.
And that is insane. So yeah, so when you checking out and watching our socials, you're gonna see this picture of us, and it's crazy. It's so thick you could almost like cut the fall or
Yeah,
the humidity.
yeah, no, insane. But I think, yeah, I think we both had to make some adjustments early. And then, maybe that works for a while and then you deal with another issue and then you have to make another adjustment. So like, I mean, I think everyone can relate to that in an ultra or even in a marathon. Like you just have to adjust as best as you can. But what you don't do is you sit at your aid station for 30 minutes and come up with every option that it might work, it might not. Like, should we do this? Should we do that? No, just go. Make a decision and go.
Sure. So, I was just kind of thinking about different examples of problem solving in ultra. So, we talked about the weather. I think that's a big thing that drives us. We were just talking about Earth Day this weekend. What's the temperature going to be for Earth Day? And ironically, we were talking about our run that we did this morning, and we both ran before the podcast. And I'm here in Michigan, and I'm like, it's super hot here. It's like in the 80s, and you're in California.
Yeah, and it's in the 50s and it's so overcast. So like trying to get some light in here.
So we swapped
We
situations.
did. We did, yeah. But I mean, I think that just is, I mean, through coaching, we deal with that all the time. Like someone will put in, the most training and is so ready to like PR race, and then race day comes around and you have to really manage expectations. Like, maybe it is that 90-degree day that they weren't truly training to have. But it happens and you have to pivot. Okay, so let's manage this. What's your options now? How are we going to pick up our electrolyte intake? How are we going to approach the pace because of the heat and the humidity, or vice versa if it's really cold and someone's not used to that as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's hard because I think we get there and we're like trained for a certain pace and we've got this in your mind and we've been working for months for it. It's hard to make that adjustment. And you think in the beginning, oh, I don't have to make adjustment. I'm going to be just fine until.
Right.
So I think, pacing strategy, the nutrition piece comes into play, I think, in the weather, all can kind of be intertwined together, right?
Right.
Make fast adjustments on race day.
Right. And then for the mental aspect of it too, like you have to really adjust quickly mentally. Like it's very easy. We're all such emotional beings, especially us runners. Like we put in everything into this. But if you don't quickly adjust your mental part of it, you're gonna feel defeated. Like on Brazos Bend when I finished that first loop and I was like, okay, that sub 20 is probably not happening. Let's just see how much under 24 we can get. And that you can just kind of have to shift. You can't sulk and say, oh, I'm done because I can't run a sub 20 today. Like sometimes you don't even know, like maybe the whole field's not running that either. Maybe like it's just the competition of who's going to run, what that pace is holding for the day. Like sometimes it takes out everybody. Like you just don't know.
Most likely, if you're being affected, everybody else is affected on the course too. You think
Yeah.
you're the only one, but everybody else is dealing with the same.
Yes. I try and tell people that all the time. I'm like, whenever you're in a low, you forget that other people are probably there too. Maybe not at the exact same time, but everyone's going to go through it. So, like, we really catastrophize it in the moment. So, you really have to check your mental capacity there and be like, okay, let's shift. You being an ultra runner, you have to know how to shift your mindset on a dime. Like, you have to be quick with it.
I agree. So the other, I think, issue that sometimes will cause an issue and that you have to fail fast is
Mhm.
getting lost on a course, right?
Oh,
Like, what are you gonna do? You like, can you cut your losses now? Like, there's gonna be. Have you ever been lost on a course or turned the ticket
my
wrong?
I have the Los Angeles Crest that I did. It's the race out here in the mountains. I each time I ran it is when I did it right after Badwater. So like my legs are already heavy. Like I'm already just drained. I do it like a week after Badwater, but I picked up my pacer at mile 82 and there's this like loop you do and we followed the directions, but on the second time around like you make a different turn. Like it's very vague and a lot of people did it. So we ended up doing an extra 4 miles on a 100-mile course. And so we actually turned a bunch of people around that were like doing the same thing as us. But one thing, like I'm incredibly, and I did this with a pacer who was fresh. Like one thing I'm actually really proud of is like, as soon as we realized we did it, I sat there and I like did like one big sigh. I was like, oh, okay, let's go.
Yes. Yep.
Like I was just like,
Nothing you can do. You've already
there's literally nothing I can do. I've got to get back to the starting point. And my knee was shot at this point. Like I was just done. But I was like, oh, okay, in the past, mental, mess up, let's go.
yeah,
And so I turned 100 miles into at least 104, which is never fun, but it happens and you have to really pivot.
yeah, for sure. It happened during my FKT across Michigan, so
Oh,
I was already running the most miles of my life, right? And,
no.
a couple pacers we just turned the wrong way, or we had trouble navigating a little bit
Yeah,
some city streets, and it's a little bit harder to navigate on your watch,
yeah.
get back onto the course. And, we did some extra miles, and it can be really defeating. You can
Yeah.
either go down with it or you can just move past it, right?
Yeah.
Because
Just move past it.
at that point, there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do. I know a lot of people in the community might know my friend Adam Kimball, who I did the survival show with, and he is always near the front of the pack. And multiple times I know I've talked to him, and he's always making wrong turns because, especially for the faster people, if you're at the front of the pack, there's no one to follow either. So, like, I think it happens a lot more than we even realize for these top people.
Right.
Because I'm never often leading a big race, and I think that they have just mastered how to navigate it
Right,
and
exactly.
shift. I mean, so everybody's doing it. So don't think you're, someone that's not having to deal with it. Everyone's probably going to do it at some point in their career, but you learn and then you pay more attention.
For sure. I'm getting ready to host the documentary The Chase at Cocodona 250. And a couple of the top guys got lost last year. They took a
No.
and got some bonus miles. So
Uh, yeah, imagine getting bonus miles. I mean, like you on the FKT, like 250 miles, you're turning into longer.
I got lost one other time on the course that I remember is I was doing a relay. And that's the worst time, right? Because your team is counting on
Yeah.
we were getting ready to move into the first place, and they all had an idea of like, okay, this is the pace she's going to make this loop. And what happened is people had been pulling flags that day. I didn't know
Mhm.
it. And so the flags had been pulled. I missed a turn, and I was out in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have a phone. I had no idea. I wasn't familiar with the area, so I didn't
No,
even get myself back.
that's the worst.
Yeah, so I'm like running and I see this kind of sketch house. I'm not sure if I should go up to it or
Yeah.
not up to it, but I'm like really lost. I mean, because I'd gotten through the
Yeah.
woods, got onto some roads that I didn't know where
Oh
I was.
my gosh.
Finally, luckily it was there was a solo 100 miler coming from the other direction, and I'm like, I'm lost. Can you tell me the way back? And then I told him, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's like 2 miles." Like I took like 2 miles extra. I'm like, okay, like, but what do? You have to just eat that. And my crew was worried, or my team was kind of worried because I was,
Yeah. Like
behind.
so far, yeah, so far out. Oh my
It's more
gosh.
miles, added some time.
Oh man. Well, I think that we, have all done it, and hopefully that makes anyone feel better that's have had to deal with
Right.
it too.
Exactly. So, and I also think sometimes in races we have to make some quick pivots when we think about injury. Something
Mhm.
goes on. Maybe it is just a minor thing like a blister, or maybe it's I twisted my ankle on a root, and like things that you can bounce back from. And then there's obviously some more things that are more serious.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to know your body, and I think that that's the important part of training is you have to know how to realize maybe what's just some discomfort that usually works itself out. Like I'm sure we all have something that like we start a long run with that kind of is always there saying hello. Like for me, it's kind of like my right hip, and then I felt it today, and then by a couple miles later it was gone. But it's knowing your body and knowing where these things will usually pop up. But that's why training is so important. Like that's why going through these things is so important during our logging our long runs, especially.
Exactly. So I think that's a good place to kind of head our conversation. We know that things happen. We know we have to make quick decisions out there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I read an article before by Ann Treason, and Ann Treason says the best ultra runners are the best problem solvers. And I think she's
Mm-hmm.
perfectly right, right? I mean,
Right.
if you good problem solving out on the course, or if you're too tired to do that, you have a good crew behind you, or a
Right.
background that can help you when you're struggling with those things. I think that's going to be sometimes a make or break situation for you.
Absolutely. And I know you probably do the same, but anytime someone's running a race, like we're all near our phones. I always tell my athletes, like, please don't make any sort of crazy decision, if you have reception, message me. Like, I'm here to talk things through with you. And a lot of times, like, they won't. And I'm like, what happened? Like, oh, I didn't want to bother you. I'm like, I'm already tracking you. Like, please reach out. Like,
Right,
I'm
exactly.
already glued to my phone because I'm so nervous watching you do this thing. So if you have that support system and a coach, I'm sure that they want to problem solve with you. Sometimes it's helpful to just have another eyes on the situation. And then sometimes when you're in a race and you're like so overwhelmed with something that's bothering you, you don't even realize that you've dealt with that before. So sometimes like that'll happen. You're like, oh, don't you remember like when you did this long run 2 weeks ago, you had the similar issue, but it resolved within a couple miles. Maybe let's just try and then reassess in a couple miles. And they're like, oh yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, I think it's good because you get kind of an outside objective perspective. You're
Mhm.
tired, you're frustrated, and just hearing somebody else give you some advice might be like, oh wow, why did I think that of that myself? I knew that, but
Yeah,
you just might not be in the right frame of mind. And I say
yeah.
this thing like I sleep by my phone at night. Like when my athletes are racing, I'm like, I don't care what time of the day it is.
I know.
Like
Like,
message
please
I'm
message
tracking
me
you because I'm waking up every half an hour to check,
anyway. Yeah,
get
exactly.
it going. Yes,
Exactly.
you might be obsessive, but it's true.
But it's true, and I think all of our coaches with Ornery Mule like feel the same way. Like we're so invested. Like we've spent months prepping you for the race, so like we're not going to sit out race day. Like we all want to know what's happening.
So what I'd like to talk about a little bit because I think this is really interesting is kind of the correlation of how do you think the skills you've learned in ultra running have translated into your solving skills in your daily life?
Oh my gosh, I think learning to problem solve in an ultra, it just correlates with life so well because think about how many decisions you make in the day. And if we were to just stew on every single decision we had to make, we'd never eat, we'd never put on an outfit, like we'd never like decide to go a certain way home versus another way, like or thinking of bigger problems like thinking of an issue with a coworker or thinking of an issue just in life that you come across. But we learn how to really make a decision and just have conviction in it and follow through with it. But it also like really preps you for life that issues are just going to arise. Like no matter what the day holds, think of how many decisions you have to make or how many problems that you face, especially if you work in an atmosphere with other humans. Like conflict just arises all the time, like just how it is. So learning how to just not be overwhelmed, I think, is a huge part of it. And we experience that every single race that we run, every single run that we run. So I think applying it to life is just, it goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. And I feel like with that being said, we can practice some of the skills that we use for problem solving within a
Mhm.
race. We can practice that on a day-to-day basis, right? Are there
Right.
that you maybe practice some of the skills that you apply in ultra daily?
Yeah. So I think the main one that I probably practice the most is just the mental I guess the hardship of it, I guess I would say. So like, on the run that I just did, there were some points where I had to climb this really hard, mountain or hill, whatever I'm doing. And I think like how you have to push and how you have to go through that discomfort. And then I want to take that into my daily life too. I have to push and I have to go through discomfort to get to a place that I want to be in my work or with other humans or with my family. Like sometimes you just have to go through a little bit of extra bit to succeed at your job or whatever it is, and whether that's working another hour or figuring out how to navigate a problem at work. Like I just think like pushing through that mental part of it is key. Like you can just easily correlate it.
I think another thing I do a lot is reflecting, on past experiences or
Mm-hmm.
like the run I just did today, reflecting on what could have made it a better run. Probably
Right.
hydration. I mean, like that was, I know better than that, but
Right.
those kind of things I think though is like kind of reflecting and going, okay, what worked in this one and how can I what can I do to problem solve to figure out what I need to change for that next run or that
Right.
or when I'm going into the race. I always like to tell athletes when things start working, write it down. Write it down so you remember what happened today,
Remember it. Yeah.
right? So that you don't forget that next time you go out for that long run, you're like, okay, this worked really well for me. Or just the opposite. It didn't work so well. What am I going to do differently to make
Right. To make it happen. And even on like a more simplistic level, like the fueling part of a run, I think really correlates to just life too. Like I have a physical job outside of coaching. I do massage therapy. So like I'm always like, oh, what time is it? Like I have another client. I should probably eat something. But we do that in the run all the time. So I think it makes you more aware in your regular life of like what energy is going to sustain me. Like I'll look at like a piece of junk food and I'm like, that's not going to do it. Like, let me pick something with more protein like that. It's like you can really pick any part of running and it easily applies into your daily life too.
I think also, goal setting can be something you own daily life, right? We all
Yeah.
for ourselves, and then we do for our races, so we can kind of use those skills to set ourselves some smart goals for life, but also use apply the smart goals to our training process goals and to our overall goal for our races.
Right. Yeah. No, that is huge. Just setting your goal. Like let's say you want to run 100 miles. That's your goal. You got to break it down a little bit easier. So maybe the goal in your life outside of running is to get that big promotion at work. So your goal setting for 100 miler is okay, maybe I need to run a marathon first, then a 50 miler, then maybe 100K. So how are you going to get the promotion? You have to figure out these steps too. I need to do well at my job for this quarter. I need to make a certain amount of sales this quarter. Like, so I think it just goes hand in hand. And I think we're just constantly kind of, I think that like the Venn diagram of running and life kind of constantly laps over.
That's great. And then
Yeah.
the other piece we've talked about before on our podcast, but we can hit it again is growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
We that in both scenarios, and in our daily life and in our running and racing, life.
Right. Yeah. The growth mindset, my goodness, like you have to really learn how to embrace every single failure that you've come across, whether it's a DNF, and we've talked about those, or whether it's like today, my realizing what is a failure and what is a success on your run or in your life. Today, I had every intention of taking a gel before I started this climb. I didn't. My legs were kind of cramping at the end, but it was kind of too late to take the gel. So, and I was vividly aware of this as I'm running. I'm like, oh, little failure, but I will remember next time to take it before I start this massive climb that I needed to do. But you can of course correlate that into regular life too, figuring out your weaknesses, maybe not your failures, but areas that you're not as strong in, and really figure out how to grow past it.
Super smart. The other one I think is thinking about mindfulness. I recently had an athlete who was struggling just with stress in general in life, right? We all have lots of stress. It was stress, more work-related stress, but sometimes that can carry over into our training, and we go
Yeah.
out on a training run and we're over, so stressed that we can have little anxiety attacks out there, like you
Yes.
breathe because you're just feeling overwhelmed with life. Um, I've been in situations where I was in jobs that it was just so stressful that I couldn't even move to go for a run. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, what kind of mindfulness things can we do to get ourselves out there and then to enjoy our run? So for me, I kind of stuck with I don't want to think about work while I'm on the trail. So like
Mm.
that was a thing that I purposefully focused on. Like if my mind floated off to work, I was like, nope, we're not
No.
gonna think about, oh, it's nice out. Look at that tree, like kind of bring myself back present.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, like when you do that, your mind goes clear. And then sometimes I could solve a work problem by the end of my run. Like it just popped in my head, it wasn't something I thought of. It just came to me. So I
Right.
think, just sort of staying in that movement or moment. Sometimes it could be a breathing technique, right? So you're taking maybe some deeper breaths while you're running and just bringing yourself back in,
Mm-hmm.
and doing maybe a body scan, like,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna start at my head, down to my toes, like, how do
Mm-hmm.
I feel? And just being in the moment
Yeah.
versus caught up in the bigness of it all, I guess, whether it be right life or whether it be in the middle of the race. I think that mindfulness can kind of bring us back and ground us a little bit.
Yeah. And I like those tricks too. Like really thinking, head to toe, like really relaxing, really taking inventory. I'm a big fan of counting. I don't know why. Like and I think I talk to a lot of runners, and I think I used to navigate against it because I'm like, I'm gonna go insane like counting. But here I have to climb a lot. That's just how it is. There's no flat places to run. So when I run, like I'm like I'll run like 30 steps at a time, hike too, like, and then I'm constantly counting, and I find it like this really interesting way of kind of moving outside of my own mind. So whatever you can kind of do to like get into that zone of like just not thinking of the day, the stressful. I totally have been there with the anxiety attacks running, and I'm like, this is supposed to be enjoyable. Like, how am I, how am I panicking? But any sort of like little meditative thing you can do, and I'll even like take pictures to like really bring myself like into the space that I'm in, or counting, or I don't listen to music when I run, so I like take inventory of, we have coyotes here and birds and all these sorts of fun little things. So I think it's super helpful to really be present, and whatever you can do to make your mind kind of shift from the stresses of life is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I help people or bikes or animals on the trail too, just to like, think about something different than, something that's causing me stress, just
Yeah.
kind of somewhere else.
And I think sometimes for me, like a trigger with just not being able to get my mind loose from life is running indoors on a treadmill can kind of make it worse for me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go outside if I know I'm a little bit heavier in the mindset today. If I'm feeling a little more anxious, I'm probably not going to go put myself in a box and run run on a surface that's not taking me anywhere. So, or if you're just truly overwhelmed, like, and you have a coach, maybe talk to them about like options. And for me, I'd probably tell somebody, okay, we're not running today, we're going to go on a hike. And that is, to me, that's like a wonderful reset of like nature and like all the wonderful things that we're talking about, but actually having the true time to enjoy them and like look around. So having someone in your corner like a coach is super helpful.
Right. And I love that you say that because, I have had people that they just have so much stress and anxiety. They're like, I just can't do the workout. Maybe it's a harder workout, right? Maybe it's a tempo run or some intervals. And it's just
Right.
can't even get myself out the door because that just seems too overwhelming. So
Yeah.
let's take away all of the boundaries and just go out for a run, right? Or a hike, instead of trying
Yeah.
to, because we don't want to make our running our stress,
Yeah.
so there's things that we can do to adjust. It's not going to hurt if you miss a few, specific workouts like that. They normally can be adjusted in the week or maybe moved into another week, and it's
Right.
all going to work out. It's
It's
more
all
important for your mental health to just like let
right.
it go.
Yeah, and I did run into this too with an athlete who didn't like hated, paces and all of these things. So then we are like, okay, well, let's switch to an effort-based training. Like, let's get totally away from paces and we're just going to go by effort. So there's things that you can do to really minimize the stressors that running might bring. And I think that a lot of it is meant to be just so joyful. And of course, we're working hard, but I think that we really, there's many, many ways, especially when you work with a coach, that you can navigate, any sort of excess stress put on your mental capacity.
Sure. Then I think practicing some decision making skills, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like one thing that happens in our races is sometimes we can get decision fatigue, right? Because
Uh-huh.
you're making so many decisions throughout that race simultaneously,
Yeah.
making a decision of what side of the course or trail you're going to run on. You're making a
Yeah.
decision you're going to have at the next aid station, what your pace is going to be. Like there's just like all
Yeah.
those things are
Too
coming.
much.
You're making them constantly. So practicing those out on days of runs can
Mhm.
also be helpful. Like, okay, I get to a spot where which way am I going to turn today? And
Yeah.
it's a decision. Thinking about those kind of things can help you, I think, is for making race day decisions as well, right?
Yeah.
Setting yourself up to have to make decisions during training runs.
Right, absolutely. And I think also on the flip side of it, maybe you know this about yourself and you do run into that fatigue of making decisions. Have your crew take that away. Like one of my athletes too was doing a race and they were like, I'm just gonna have my crew hand me and then I'm just gonna eat. Like I'm not gonna, because if you ask me what I want to eat 80 miles into a race, I'm gonna tell you nothing.
Right.
You're gonna offer me 10 things, I'm gonna say no,
Yeah.
no, like over and over again. And it's maybe not decision fatigue at that point, it's just nothing is sounding good type of thing. So if you know that and you know that you really struggle with making a decision later in a race, have your crew like have that conversation before you get there. Have your crew hand you this, say you're not leaving till you eat this, and then that's that. Or if you had already planned on a shoe change at mile 50, stick to it. There's a reason why you planned on it. And if you don't feel like it in the moment, it's probably because you don't feel like just doing, like taking the time to do it. Have confidence in your decisions when your mind is strong and not tired and you haven't ran 50 miles. Like, be really confident in your decisions. On the last 100 that I did on Blue, it's a 2 mile loop and you run by your cabin. So you have the option of going into your cabin and changing or using the restroom or taking a shower. And it gets really cold. So the last 2 years, because I struggle with the cold at night, I have made the decision beforehand. I'm taking a shower at mile 60. I'm getting wonderful warm clothes on. I'm taking wet clothes off. And that's going to be it. And each year I did not want to. I was like, no, I'm in a groove. I don't want to go in. But I did it. And I think my time was much better each year than if I would have just kept running and gotten cold.
Right,
So have have confidence in your decisions even before you get to the race and have a plan.
right. And if you have a crew, have them help you stick to your decisions. I always like to, do just write something up for my crew so they know some of my decisions that I've already decided. So they,
Yeah.
and I always say, like, do not give me more than two choices. More than two
Yeah.
choices is too much for me. I don't know what that, it's
Yeah.
just, I can't choose between five right now. Just give me,
No.
make it easy.
Yeah, I don't care what the flavor is. I don't care. Give me like two drastically different options. And
Right.
then if I can't decide, just give me one. Like, that's just how it's gonna be.
So another, I think, decision-making skill is like kind of mapping things out. I think we do this when we're planning life goals or when we're working, maybe even planning a work project. We
Hmm.
would map out, here we are and this is where we're going. And I
Hmm.
think those kind of skills can be practiced in daily life that you can
Yeah.
also apply to life or to racing plans, like, right?
Hmm.
Just set a solid race plan, like what we're talking about. Like, what is your race day strategy? What are you going to do for your pacing or your
Hmm.
effort? What are you going to do for nutrition and hydration? And what kinds of clothes do you need in different drop bags? Those are
Yeah.
all things that you need to, do some mapping out, just like you would in a daily life, maybe a work project.
Right. Yeah. You can't fly blind at your job. So why would you do it in a race?
Right.
You have to know exactly how your body is going to respond or have a contingency plan for how your body is going to respond to things. So you can map out your A race, which is wonderful, and you can map out like everything that you want to happen, but maybe have a plan B too. And maybe things aren't going well. Like, what's another option that you could plan for if let's say solid foods aren't working for you, maybe have your crew, or in your, if you don't have a crew, you're in your mental back pocket, okay, maybe solid foods aren't working, what do I need to shift to? Soup, soda, apple juice, chocolate milk. What is your contingency plan there? I mean, what is, the famous saying, like, success is opportunity means preparation. Like, you have to know exactly kind of everything will go wrong at some point. Then you have a plan B. So I think it's helpful to just map out all these different options, and a lot of that just comes with experience or having a coach as well, because we can tell you from our experience what might go wrong.
Right, exactly. Now, I'll be curious what your answer is to this, because I think I might know. But for me, mapping is actually I like to see it visually, right? So I like to make a spreadsheet or a yeah, I like to see it.
Yeah.
And that just kind of gives me peace of mind. I'm guessing that you do not.
No, I'm not a spreadsheet
You're not
gal.
a list person.
It's all up here. But I do, like, for my Badwater crew, one of my best friends, Myra, is like this, like, that's her like actual job. She's an event planner and coordinator for like big events. So I look at her notes afterward and it's like what I ate at a specific time and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know I did that. But if you know that's not your strength, and to me that's a little overwhelming. If I work like you, that to me stresses me out. So I put that on someone else. I'm like, you can do that if that makes you happy, by all means. But as long as, like, I know in my brain kind of where I'm going, like, I've mapped out everything we've talked about mentally, I'm good. but but a lot of people don't work like that. So you have to know exactly how you work. And it is helpful to have another set of eyes on it. So my friend Myra is fantastic at that. So I let her go for that.
And I think it's true, like everybody is a little different kind of learner. Some people are very visual, some people are not,
Mhm.
it just it could be just, auditory or verbal hearing it is good
Yeah.
enough for you. And that's something that I know with all of my athletes are all a little different, and
Mhm.
of them, like you said, some people have no interest in having that information because it's just too stressful for them. And some
Mhm.
people want it because they think the way I do and they
Yeah.
they have all that stuff, So I think you just kind
Yeah.
of um I guess shape around whatever it works for you. One of
Right.
the things I love to do is part of kind of mapping my stuff out is to get out all of my supplies, you
Yeah.
know, sort them out and lay them out in the way I figure that I'll use them that day,
Even this is like making me hot. I'm like, ah. No, but I totally understand the value in that. Like, if I'm coaching somebody, I would totally recommend that too. I'm like, make sure you get an eye on everything that you need. Let's, label and separate. For me, that's one thing I definitely struggle with. But I have a system that works for me too, and I like to, thinking about mapping things. For me, a race strategy too that works a lot of the time for me is being adaptable, and we talk about that all the time. Like people are like, "What do you use for fuel?" And I'm like, "What don't I use?" Because I practice with everything. Like there's periods where my body doesn't like gels, so I just practice eating lots of random food. And I tell my athletes that too. One of my athletes, we specifically train for. I'm like, okay, what are we trying new today? Because they do want to be prepped for anything going into their race that they need. And I think that that's just incredibly helpful to be able to adapt.
I think so too. And somebody asked me recently, like, how do you organize your stuff? Because this
Yeah,
can time, right? Getting ready for a big race. But I have made labels, of course, and no surprise there, right? And so
no,
if one of my boxes is missing, what's the inside of it? I know what I'm missing. Like, oh,
right.
put my squirrel's nut butter in there, because it says squirrel's nut butter, better put it in there.
Yeah,
It makes it easier for me to not forget anything because I have done it so many times that I know the things that I might need.
the things that you might need. Yeah, so I think that that's just. I think having a contingency plan, being adaptable, all of that is
Yeah.
incredibly helpful. So I know we talked a little bit each week about a this or that. I didn't prep one, but I'm just thinking as we're talking, did you come up with one?
I have not.
Okay, so I was just thinking as we're talking, what could a this or that be? And like we could go on and on about this or that. So you can do like we can go the gear route, but you were just talking about the squirrel's nut butter, and that kind of like made me think. Let's talk about lube. Do would you go? So are you a squirrel's nut butter fan?
I am. Yep.
Yeah, so I haven't really used a ton of the squirrel's nut butter, but I love A&D diaper cream. To me, that is like gold. And one of my friends introduced it to me. But I love having this conversation because so many people have like a different opinion on what works for chafing.
It seems like it's a little bit different for everyone. Actually, I mean, I'm a squirrel's nut butter fan, but recently I've been having a little bit of extra chafing. I just was getting frustrated, and so I tried Aquaphor, and
Oh
that
yeah,
really, really well for me too. I'm like, oh, this I might really like this. So
yeah. The Aquaphor is a skin healer too, but that's why I like the A&D diaper cream because it's literally just for babies, but it's a skin healant too, so it like heals the skin. So I use that even after if I end up having some chafing. But one thing that I could be a this or that, whether if you give me the choice of a type of lube or another preventative measure, I'm actually going KT tape. Like for us women that have the chafing under the sports bra, I use just a strip of KT tape on my front and my back, and you don't even have to use any lube with it.
that's smart. I've used KT tape also across my back if I'm wearing a pack, like right across my
Yes.
scrub. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's super helpful. So, and I think like, we're all so comfortable talking about this and we all deal with it. So I think like just getting so many different opinions. But yeah, if we're doing a this or that on like a traditional like squirrel's nut butter or something non-traditional, I love going the non-traditional. Like baby supplies is supreme.
yeah, that's good. Sort of made for that same my concept, just different reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else we want to talk on
Yeah,
subject?
so before we move on, I just want to add one more piece I think that we might have overlooked is I think that one of the things you can do to make yourself a better problem solver is to do some research. Um,
Yes.
or read books on problem solving. So there's all kinds of books out there. We have a book club where the Ornery Mule Racing that we do monthly, and we have done some books that, do hard things. There are books out there that will help you with your problem solving skills, I think, as well. And then, of course, the other piece that can be really helpful in problem solving skills is hiring a coach, which we've kind of talked about before, is, the coaching piece can really help you take away some of this problem solving skills for you. Um,
Right.
if needed in the times that it's just too hard to make those decisions late into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've talked time and time again just how valuable that is to have a coach. But what I would love to stress too is trust that your coach is in your corner and that we're making decisions to help you be your best as well. But yeah, like I reference so many books in my mind that I always talk about, like one of the best books I've ever read is just the original Ultra Marathon Man by Dean Karnazes. And I still, like, everyone can reference, like, his pizza eating, running overnight. Like there's just so many little things that, hey, if it worked for Dean, it might work for me. And I love that. But so many people are in this space, and maybe not everything works for everybody. But when you really dive into books and research, you do remember these things when you're out there problem solving. I mean, it's happened to me time and time again. Or you do remember the little tidbit that your coach told you that might help. Like, so the more information you can have and the more information that comes in, I think you're setting yourself up for success.
I agree. I
Yeah.
completely agree. And you know what? You're already listening to our podcast. So
Yeah.
you're lots of great problem solving skills today and in many of our episodes.
Yeah. And nothing makes me happier than after an athlete finishes a race and they're like, hey, when you said that, like I actually did it and it helped. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, you not only remembered, you did it and it worked. Like, wonderful.
Right.
But sometimes, like, it goes the opposite way. And I'm like, oh, you had blisters. Well, did you, maybe do some of the things we talked about? Oh, no, I didn't. Oh my goodness.
Right, right.
So before you throw in the towel on any race or any run, like really rack your mental brain, because we've done a lot of the research for you too as coaches. Like a lot of us race a lot of us just run a lot in general. And I promise you, if you have a problem, we probably have already addressed it in our own mind or gone through it. So use your coach's struggles to your benefit too. Keep all those little tidbits in your pocket. And the more people you talk to other ultra runners. That's why community is so important. Talk to other people about what works for them. I can't tell you how many like tricks I've stolen from other runners. Like,
Right, exactly. Oh yeah, there's always these little nuggets around that you can use.
yeah,
Oh, that was like super smart. Why didn't I think of
right. I
that?
don't know anything of that. And I don't even know like how some of the, like, probably no one knows how they originate or who they actually come from to begin with, but they're all just like wonderful little tidbits that we pass around. And that's the beauty of having a wonderful ultra running community, having a coach. Like, just really get it connected in your sphere and learn from other people, because there's no right way to do all of this, but there's a collaborative effort on how to get through it too.
Sure. Completely
Yeah.
agree.
Awesome. I think that's it for today's episode of The Dirt. Remember that some of your best breakthroughs can happen right after things fall apart, as we have talked about in this episode.
Sure. So fail fast, learn faster, and trust that every tough mile is teaching you something worth carrying forward. Failing fast isn't about failing often, it's about failing smart.
And we'd love to hear how you're applying these lessons. Drop us a message, tag us on your next run, or come say hi at a local meetup. Or if you see one of us at a race, I love that when someone will come up to me, and I'm always down to hear about your race or how I can help you too.
It's the best. We love doing that, connecting with our
Yeah,
for sure.
love.
So until next time, keep showing up, stay curious, and don't be afraid to get a little dirty.
See you out on the trails.